to the way the examinations are conducted. There are three levels of examination in both these courses. You have to undergo a couple of years of practical training in both of them. But the curriculum that it is based upon and the opportunities that it offers post your qualification are extremely different. So, as a company secretary, the major focus of the entire curriculum lies on the corporate law. So we can think of it as this way that like every person needs a secretary to work for themselves. In a similar manner, the companies also need a secretary who can manage their day-to-day compliances and ensure that the companies run smoothly, ensuring compliance with all the applicable corporate laws and other regulations that are being placed. So the job of a company secretary is majorly on the end of compliance for the companies and to manage the day-to-day functioning of how business is operated. So that is what exactly a company secretary does. Now, for the CA, the opportunities are manifold because if you're pursuing the chartered accountancy course, then you have the option to pursue the traditional practices of auditing, assurance, taxation, because these are some of the practices where the chartered accountants have an exclusive right as provided by the law. So most of us must be aware that in order to be a statutory auditor of any company, you have to be a professional qualified chartered accountant who is practicing for who has to be a member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. So such opportunities are the traditional ones that have always been present in the system as to taking up your own practice, whether in the field of taxation, whether in the field of assurance, being a statutory auditor, attesting the financial statements of the various corporates, whether big or small. And the other thing that comes naturally with the CA course is the taxation practice. So, under both the direct and the indirect taxation, there are a lot of compliances which a chartered accountant is expected to fulfill on behalf of its clients. And along with that, he's expected to be acting as a consultant and advise their clients on how to do their tax planning and how to make their investments such that the tax outflow is the lowest as and still being compliant with the various laws that are out there in the system. So I think that is the major difference between a CA and a CS.
Oh, that's great. Now coming to the second part of the question, what are the different job opportunities or roles that you can take up, when you go into these two career streams. Both are two
Broad
different.
categories.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there are basically three broad categories that I would say you can take up after your qualification. One of them is practice, like I mentioned, the traditional practicing system, wherein you set up your own accounting firm, and you directly go on to approach clients and help them with consulting and certification matters. The second opportunity is in the terms of employment. Now, when I talk about employment, it could be at a big reputed CA firm, like one of the big four firms, where you will be working as an employee and you will gradually grow in the corporate ladder to attain the position of a partner in that firm. Or you can work in any other industry. Because, look, it's very important to understand that every company needs funds to operate. Be it a FMCG company, be it an automobile company, be it a company in the information technology sector or the hospitality sector, any company will obviously need funds to operate, and they will need a person who will help them manage those funds. So we as chartered accountants have an inherent edge when it comes to this particular aspect. So that is one area where you will see most of the chartered accountants have been working in the finance department of various companies, which are widespread across all the industries that are present out there. And in addition to that, one of the latest growing field for chartered accountants is the finance sector, because a lot of banks, be it the retail banks, be it investment banks, or any sort of a banking company, and a lot of PE firms, they are also hiring more and more chartered accountants because of their ability to analyze the financials of a company and to make decisions based on the overall dynamics of a particular corporate. So I think this particular sector is one of the most attractive and most lucrative as a young chartered accountant for most of us, because it offers a lot of opportunities. It is still growing sector in India, and it it helps you earn big amount of money if you do good over there over a long period of time. And another important opportunity that's out there is under the management consulting firms. So I guess we must all be knowing that there are basically two major segments of the management consulting firms. One of them being the big three companies like the Bain, BCG, and McKinsey. from where we'll have our friends and colleagues who will be talking about that. And there are some other boutique firms. And in both of these management consulting firms, the demand for the CAs are on a rise. So I would say that after completing a CA course, the opportunities are widespread, and you can always look for employment in any of the industry, because most of these industries will have one or two odd roles which will be specifically allocated for the chartered accountant. And apart from then, you can always go to the traditional practice. And the third would be your own venture, your own startup, or you can get into teaching, and all those fields are wide open for a chartered accountant after his qualification.
That's really amazing, Suryansh. So now, my next question comes to our main topic, which is how to ace CACS, right? More into that side of things. So I just wanted to know, how did you go about when you decided that you wanted to do CA, for instance, and this is a question which a lot of people have in their mind, who are currently studying CA also. What is the approach that you took personally, because you are amongst the you came all India rank number one also. So how did you work towards?
Okay, so I think a very important thing to understand over here is that the CA journey is a really, really long journey. It begins right after you give your 12th board examinations, and it has been around 6 years that I've written my 12th examinations, and now it is that I'm finally a qualified chartered accountant. So it is a long, long journey, and one of the most important factors to consider over here is the importance of self motivation, because I think most of the people who do not do well in this particular course, the major shortcoming that they have is the lack of self motivation. Everybody knows and everybody acknowledges the fact that it is one of the toughest examination in the country, and it does need a lot of commitment, a lot of dedication towards it. But what they do not understand is that it also calls for consistent and persistently working towards your goals, because this is not a small journey, it's a really long journey, and you have to be very clear right from the very beginning as to what it is that you really want to achieve at the end.
I'm really sorry, Tanvi. Is it possible you can mute yourself, or to all the people who have been seated on the seats? Please, can you mute yourself so that we can hear Suryansh better, please? Seat number 3, seat number 4. Can you please mute yourself? Thank you, Keshav. Seat number 3. Okay, so Suryansh, now another question. So yes, I mean, you did work a lot towards becoming a CA, right? But yes, the hard fact is that obviously not a lot of people who are preparing for their CA end up being a CA at the end. So what are the what is a path that a person who does not clear CA even after, let's say, 2 attempts or 3 attempts, what is there are other opportunities that they can get into, because they have invested so much of their time and effort into this, and but yeah, so what do you
Yeah,
say?
exactly. So yeah, that's very true. That it is one of a very common feature that we have seen, that a lot of people drop out of the CA course after multiple attempts. So I think there are two things that we need to analyze over here. First is that if your family and your personal conditions permit you to put in extra one or two attempts, or to keep pursuing it for further 1 or 2 years, I think.
uh, sorry, Suryansh, I think we lost you there. uh, uh, Suryansh, can you hear me?
Hello. Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, it's better, yes.
Okay. So what I was saying is that if your personal and your family conditions they permit you to put in extra 1 or 2 attempts, or given another year towards this course, I think that is a more reasonable thing to do, because you must have already invested some very crucial 3 or 4 years of your life already into the course. So if those conditions permit you, I think it is better to write one more attempt. It's better to reach till the end because, frankly, the initial CA before your name, they do make a difference. When you're out in the job market, the opportunities are limited, and if you have completed your course till the very end, you will certainly hold an edge over others. But if the however, the thing is that we need to understand that if a person is dropping out, then it's not like he's left with nowhere else to go. There are a lot of opportunities that you can still pursue because there are quite a certification courses that even the institute offers, and there are some job opportunities that a lot of company offers for people who have cleared their IPCC examinations itself. So let us say you have qualified your IPCC and you have undergone 3 years of articleship training. So you already have a good sense of how a corporate works. You already have a practical exposure that you have learned in the 3 years of articleship, and you have an IPCC degree to back your technical knowledge. So in that case, you can also approach the companies and you can also apply for the roles of an accountant or for any other role in the finance department of various small corporates, because a lot of those corporates, they do have an opening for a person who is qualified IPCC. So that is one. The second option could be to write any other examination, like change of fields, because if you realize after putting in 3 or 4 years into the CA course that this is something that you don't really enjoy and this is something which extremely fine. Not everybody is good at everything. So it's very important to identify that where exactly your interest lies, and you can always consider the chances of shifting your lines. So maybe writing a CAT examinations or giving an entrance examination of any other course. That is also an equally feasible option because trust me, the basic level of understanding that we have had and the amount of dedication that you must have put in those 3 or 4 years that you would think you have been wasting will definitely help you in the time to come. It will prepare you for a lot of further challenges because you have gone through the worst. And once the things start to turn around, then the level of motivation that will come from within would be unmatchable, and that you can really prosper in the other ventures that you undertake.
Okay. Okay, that's a lot of information to gather, and I think this is going to help a lot of people in the audience. Now coming to my next question, I have personally seen many of my my friends, for that instance, who are preparing, who are in college, and at the same time was preparing for their CAT examination. I'm sorry, for their CA examination. How did you personally manage your time to make sure that you gave equal importance to both?
Yeah, so I agree that once we are in college, the biggest challenge is to maintain a balance between studies and your college co-curriculars. So, in order to achieve that balance, the single most important thing in our case was a group of friends who were in a similar situation. So it's very important to have a good, reliable, and some good, reliable companions along with you. Because what we used to do was we used to go for the coaching classes together every morning. We used to exchange notes because missing classes amidst all the college activities was very common in those days. And we negotiated with the teachers collectively for attendance, for leaves and grades, among other things. So if you have a really good group of the people who are sailing in the same boat, I think it gets a lot more easier to manage both your co-curriculars and your CS studies at the same time. So I managed to clear both the levels of CS examination as well as IPCC examination while I was in college. And well, today when I think about it, I think that the college just ended with a snap of a finger. But when you actually think about it, there was so much that was done, and there was so much that I could have done. Because trust me,
I think we lost you again, Suryansh. Hello, Suryansh, can you hear me? Is it audible? from Suryansh.
Hello, is it any better now?
Yeah, yes, it's better. Yes, we can hear you,
Okay.
Suryansh.
So, what I was saying that it's important to plan how you're going to spend the 3 years of college. Like when I joined the college, I knew that I had to write my IPCC examination in the third semester. So I knew that I had the first and the second semester in hand to participate extensively in all the co-curricular activities. I was an active participant in the college elections, in the various societies, because I knew beforehand that I had the first 2 semesters in my hand in order to involve myself in the various co-curricular activities. Whereas on the contrary, in the third semester, I completely dedicated myself towards the CA IBCC exams preparation. Similarly, in the fourth and the fifth semester, again, I participated extensively in the college proceedings, and again, I tried to focus all my efforts in the CS examination towards the end of the sixth semester. So it's very important to have a definitive plan and a timeline as to when you are willing to write your examinations, and you have to take your time out in the other semesters in order to participate in your college activities.
Okay, okay. That's really amazing. I mean, it's very, very difficult. Personally, me going to college myself. Completing college, and during the time of college, it plays a very, very important role on how you manage time. What do you, according to you, Suryansh, what is the most important thing, or one of the most important thing when it comes to going about this whole CA preparation? I mean, that's one of the questions asked by the audience also, and wanted to know the most important thing.
Okay, so I think the single most important thing over here
Suryansh,
is self
excuse me.
motivation. Yeah.
I would add to the question of Akash that what was the exact attitude and the mindset which you had for the CA examinations?
Yeah. So I'll take that. So uh,
Yeah,
can you
thank you.
please yeah,
Uh, Tanmay, is it possible you can mute your mic, please?
Okay. So I wanted to add to the question of Akash. Am I
Yes,
audible?
Tanmay. Yes, Tanmay, we can hear you. And I think Suryansh has already gathered your question. Is it possible if you can mute yourself so that the
Yeah,
echo
sure,
doesn't
sure,
come?
sure.
Yeah, thank you.
yeah. Thank you.
Great.
So I think I'll take both of them question together because the attitude that I had over all this 5 to 6 years of my professional journey, and the single most important thing that I feel is of utmost importance is self motivation. And I have made a Brahmastra for myself. It is a set of 3 questions that I always ask myself whenever I am stuck in any situation. And I would strongly recommend each one of you to have these 3 questions in the back of your mind at every point of time. First is to think, why did I start it? The second being, have I done well so far? And the third being, can this path lead me to my destination? And the moment you will have an answer to these 3 questions, I can assure you there's no stepping back. Because in order to keep yourself motivated, in order to keep yourself working, it's very important to know that why you have started what you started. Because each of us has some aspirations, each of us has some ambitions, and we all want to be at a better position that we currently are in. So that particular thought is something which has to be there in the back of your mind at every single second of your professional journey in order to keep yourself motivated. And that is the kind of attitude you have to carry with yourself that if I have started it, I had started it for a reason, and I have been doing well so far in this journey. And if I continue to go on the same path, I will achieve what I always wanted to. So that is the only attitude which you should have in your mind. And I think that will really, really help you with any of the venture that you do.
Yeah.
So
Yes. Sorry. Yes, Tanmay.
yeah,
Your question.
Suryansh, you mentioned that you had some destination which you wanted to achieve in the earlier part of your speech, and these three things will help you in achieving those that particular destination. So
Yeah.
what is it that destination, and has CA helped you achieving that?
Okay, the destination for me is not something very definitive.
Sorry, Suryansh. Yeah. Now it's better. Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
Suryansh.
So the destination for me, I think it's not always necessary to have a very definite destination, but a destination for me is where I see myself around 6 to 7 years down the line as somebody who is excelling in his corporate career, somebody who is earning good amount of money, somebody who is surrounded by a good bunch of people who are all ambitious, who are all looking forward to move ahead in their life. So that is which what my destination is, and I think this and the entire CA course, the entire professional journey, my additions in my CV by the means of doing CFA or the CS course, it has all helped me to be around the best set of people. It has always helped me to be and among the topmost companies that I have always wanted to work for, and to earn a handsome amount of money. So that is what the destination is.
Okay. Okay. That's great, Suryansh. I mean, now I'm going to some of the questions which our audience had. One of the questions which I saw was, sorry, there's a lot of echoing. Can all of you mute yourself, please? Okay, great. Okay, one of the question which was asked by the audience was, while preparing for your finals and at the same time doing your articleship, how do you manage that time and that whole bandwidth side of things, Suryansh? How did you go about it?
Okay, yeah. So I'll be putting forward the four vital pieces of advice in this respect, and something which I really followed myself, and I think it helped me in a big, big way. The first thing and the most important thing is to complete all your coaching classes before going into the 4 or 5 months of study leaves that we get right before the examination, in order to dedicate that last few months solely towards self study. So this is one of the most crucial things which we all should keep in mind, because I know it's very difficult to it's very difficult to study when your articleship is going on and you don't have enough time to get into self study and all of it. It's really difficult for you to do that. But at the same time, it's very much possible to complete all your coachings in the first 2.5 years of articleship before you are out for your exam leaves, because most of these coachings they take place earlier in the morning, so you can easily attend those coaching classes from 6 to 10 in the morning, and then you can go to your offices for the articleship. So I think this is something which really helped me, because once I went for the study leaves and for the preparation leaves, I knew that what exactly I had to prepare. I had a basic idea of all the subjects because I've completed my coachings for each one of them. So that is my first piece of advice. The second would be to decide your resources and the preparation material before going into the leave, and then stick to it. I think it's very important to make an informed decision in this regard after consulting as many people as you want to. But once the choice is made, it is very, very crucial to trust your decision and to stick to what you have chosen. It's a very common mistake that people do, that they switch their resources in the last couple of months of the preparation. That only leads to a lot of fear, that only leads to a lot of anxiety and confusion in your mind. So it's very important give a detailed to give a detailed thought onto what resources you have to rely. And once you have made that choice,
Sorry, Suryansh, I think we lost you once again.
okay, is it any better now?
Yes, now it's better. Yes.
Okay, were you able to hear the second thing that I mentioned about the resources?
Yes. We were able to hear.
Yeah. The only thing was that.
So sorry to disturb you. Can you once again repeat the second resources? I didn't hear it clearly.
Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah. Sure. So, what I was saying is that it's very important to decide your resources and your preparation material before you have gone into your 4 5 months of preparation leave, and then stick to it. So you should make an informed decision in this regard after consulting a lot of people. But once you have made your choice, it is very, very crucial to trust your decision and to stick as to what you have chosen. Because if we tend to change our resources in the last 2 or 3 months, it only leads to fear, anxiety, and confusion in our minds and doesn't help us in a lot of ways. So that was the second thing which I wanted to mention. Now the third one is to aim for a rank. I know that this might sound a little too ambitious for the masses, but it is a well said thing that if you aim for the moon, even if you miss, you end up hitting the stars. So we all have to accept that it is a harsh reality that getting a rank does play the role of a differentiator post your qualification, be it in terms of job opportunities or anything else. So it's very, very important to aim for a rank from the beginning. You don't have to over.
Sorry, Suryansh, we lost you there again. Um,
Okay, yeah, hello.
yes, yes.
Yeah, so I was saying the third thing was to aim for a rank because rank it actually does play a role of a differentiator later post qualification in terms of job opportunity and everything that comes across. So even though it might sound a bit too ambitious, but it's always really important to have this aspiration in the back of your mind and to push yourself towards attaining one.
Okay. Okay, that's really amazing. Now one of the another question that was asked by accumulate a lot of people in the audience is how do I choose between taking a profession in CFA or CA, and also what are the major differences between getting into these two fields.
So I think the ultimate decision of whether you want to be working as a CFA or a CA, it only lies up to your interest because the opportunities in both of these courses they are immense. Like I have known people and I've seen people who have done really well after completing the CFA course, and at the same time I have seen people who did not even land up with a job even after clearing all the three levels. And the same goes for CA. I know people who are earning really good.
Sorry, Suryansh, I think we lost you there. Um, Suryansh, can you hear me? I mean, Suryansh, sorry, I think we are having an issue. Uh, yeah, I think we can hear you now, Suryansh.
Yeah. So, like I was saying that even I am currently registered as a CFA level 3 candidate, and I also started with this course because I had an inclination towards the finance sector. I wanted to work with a good investment banking firm in the initial days, but later on, through the 3 years of my articleship, I realized that there is something else that I enjoy more than that. So I know it sounds a lot more easier, but then it does take time for you to realize your actual interest. And I think we all have a couple of years at the beginning of a career in order to experiment and in order to find out as to exactly what is it that we want to continue doing for the rest of our lives. So these 3 years of our articleship they are extremely crucial for you to decide as to where exactly your interest lies, and you can easily decide that by the level of motivation that you get when you're working on a particular project. Like I was working on one of the finance projects and I did not put my 100% to that project because somewhere down the line I tend to lose interest during that assignment, which made me realize that I might not be very much interested in working in a finance industry for a longer run, despite the fact that I've cleared the first two levels of my CFA examinations in a very smooth manner. So that is something which
I think we lost you there once again. Sukesh, sorry. I think
yeah.
now it seems to be better. Yeah.
Okay, so that's what I was saying, that it's very important to try looking for what interests you the most and what is it that you want to do in the longer run, because honestly the opportunities under all these courses, be it CA, CS or a CFA, they are equally good, because for most of the major companies, like the companies who have a paid up share capital of 5 crore rupees or more, it's a mandatory requirement by law to have a company secretary, and the company secretaries, they occupy a position equivalent to the board of directors in a company. So that's a really decorated job to have for. But at the same time, I know a lot of my friends who have pursued the CS courses and are still looking for jobs. So it's the same thing with all these courses, that if your interest lies in that particular sector, then you can excel. There are no boundaries. But at the same time, if you end up getting stuck in a wrong profession, you might have to face a lot of challenges. And I think some initial 2 or 3 years of your professional journey has to be kept for that sort of an experimentation, wherein you can look for the various alternatives if you're not very sure of your interest, and then decide accordingly after a couple of years maybe.
Okay, okay, that's great. So there is one person in the audience who's been asking this questions a multiple number of times, and I feel it's pretty important also. All of us have very challenging, clients, and at the same time, while working in an articleship, right? And then at the same time, you have your preparation for your CA to do. How do you manage that? I think we did go about this question early on, but since a person has been asking for a very long time, it would be great if you could cover that.
Yeah. So, like personally, the client that I was working on, it is undoubtedly one of the most hectic clients that my firm has. And I've spent some really, really long working hours. I've spent like straight 24 hours working in the office as well for this client. So it was never an easy way out for me. But the thing is that you have to prioritize things as and when it comes. So that means that if a particular deadline is approaching, and you know that you have to complete this particular assignment, let's say in the next 4 or 5 days. So I think it's perfectly normal and it's perfectly understandable that you won't be able.
Um, Suryansh, we lost you again. Really sorry this is happening.
Akash, you can ask him to take seat number 6th.
Yeah. Can you take seat number 6, Suryansh, so that maybe
I'll do that.
yeah, you can just take seat number 6. Please excuse me, in seat number 6, it would be great if you could leave that seat so that Suryansh can take over that seat, because he's the speaker. Thank you, seat number. Yes, Suryansh.
Just a second, I'm trying to do that.
Seat number 6. Can you please leave the seat so that guys? Can you please leave the seat so that the speaker can join? Thank you. Yes, Suryansh, you can join the seat 6.
Yeah.
Oh yes,
Hello.
perfect. Yes,
Okay.
Suryansh.
Yeah. Okay. So I was saying that it's very important to prioritize things as and when it comes, because it's perfectly normal to not study for a week or a couple of weeks if you're working on a busy assignment, because you will get some time wherein you will be able to compensate that much. And like I mentioned before, it's I mean, like personally, I did not study much during the first 2 years of my articleship. I only ensured that I'm done with my classes, and I used to just go to the coaching classes, uh, and just sit there for the next 3 or 4 hours in the hope that maybe I could be able to retain something. That was the only expectation that I had in the first 1.5, 2 years from my articleship. And it was only in the last 6 or 7 months when you have all your resources ready, you have a basic understanding of how the subject operates, you have all your completed coaching notes, that you can actually get down to work and study. So 6 months preparation is good enough for CA final. I know it might sound a little absurd, but trust me, 6 months of intense preparation when you are studying around 14 to 15 hours a day, that's more than sufficient to clear any examination, not just the CA final examination, but any other examination, because it's a lot of time that you have. And before that, while you're working on your articleship, I think it's pretty important to emphasize on learning and to, to
Yes, yes, Suryansh. I think we lost you there again. Uh, Suryansh. Suryansh, I think
yeah.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. There's a lot of echoing. So I think Suryansh
Yeah.
Yes, Suryansh, you can go ahead.
Yeah, so the point over here is that during the first 2 years of articleship, I think it's perfectly normal if you're not able to study much. It's perfectly normal if you're focusing more of energy towards learning newer things, because that will prepare you for the future jobs and your future goals ahead. And the studies can be managed in the last few months, provided that you're done with all your coaching classes and you have your resources handy with you before going for the leaves. So, if you can ensure that much of an effort while being an while working on your articleship, I think that is more than sufficient. That's something which I did, and it worked perfectly well for me.
Okay, that's great.
Okay, that's great.
I think there's a lot of
I
echoing.
think there's a lot of echoing.
Can you hear me, Suryansh?
Can you hear me, Suryansh?
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
Uh,
Uh,
it would be great if you could
it would be great if you could
experience helps in written
experience helps in written
a question asked.
Definitely, definitely. The articleship experience, it actually helps a lot in exam. Like, I'll give you a very small instance. So in one of the papers, I think it was international. It was the indirect taxes, that we came across one question uh, which most of the people would consider that to be out of syllabus question, or the one of the questions which everybody would struggle in, because that had to do something that revolved around a concept which most of the people were not even aware of. But because I was working in one of the specialized industries, I actually knew what that term meant and how that particular transaction operated, because of which I could at least attempt that question. So there are a lot of instances like those wherein you actually realize when you're writing an examination that how much your articleship experience has helped you at that point of time.
Okay, that's great. So if
Okay,
there is
that's
someone
great. So if there is someone
from the audience, I'm not
from the audience, I'm not
the particular question
the
after
particular
anyone is
question
being
after
taken.
one is being
It's not that you are
it's not that
the question is not very hard.
the question is not
Sir,
very
can you
sir, can you
I should prepare for both
I should prepare for
in
both
CA entrance or
CA
one to
Yeah, I can read that question. I'll take that, Akash.
so
So, uh,
so
yeah, to be really blunt and honest, clearing both your groups in a single go, it will give you an edge. when it comes to job opportunities or articleship opportunities, it will help you. It will help you to land up at a better spot. But then again, I think if you have two different alternatives, one of which is to appear for single group and pass, and the second alternative being to forcibly write both the groups and flunk. So I would choose the first alternative. So if the time does not permit, or if your level of preparation at this particular instant does not allow you to go for both the groups, I think a more wiser choice would be to leave out one of the group and clear the other group in the first go. But if you have ample time, if you have sufficient time to prepare and to approach your examination, writing both the groups in a single go, it holds a lot of edge, because that way, first, you are eligible for a rank. Secondly, there is a benefit of set off that you can have among both these groups. So what I mean by that is that if I have to secure a total of 50% aggregate in both the groups, I can use the surplus in one of the groups to compensate the shortfall in another, which is only possible if you write both the groups in a single go. So that is one of the benefits which has helped a lot of people to clear their examinations, because they have written both the groups together. Had they written one group at a time, this particular compensatory benefit would not have been available to those guys. So I think that is one of the really, really important advantages that you hold when you're writing both the groups together. So if you have sufficient time, then it's better to go for both the groups in the same attempt.
Can I have a question?
So we have a question. Sorry, Keshav.
Yes,
Can you
So, like, even I also want to ask one question.
yes, Keshav. You can go ahead.
Yeah. So the thing is, I'm in the first year BMS, and I would be moving in the second year. So can I join CA classes from the second year onwards? If I can, then from which level do I have to give exams?
Okay, so if you start pursuing the course in your second year, I think you'll have to go through all the three stages of examination. The first being the entrance level or the CPT examination, the CA foundation as they call it nowadays. So you'll have to go through that, and then the IPCC, and then the final. But if you wait till the completion of a graduation, so you can skip the initial level and you can directly enroll yourself for the intermediate level. But that is only after the completion of a graduation, not after completing 1 or 2 years of it.
Okay. And so, like, are there any coaching classes you recommend, or any recommended videos which you suggest so that I can utilize this time during lockdown?
Okay, so do you want me to cover some specific subject or some general on a general aspect?
So, like, on a general aspect.
So I think what I am personally doing in this lockdown period is that I am pursuing a couple of courses on Udemy and Coursera, because I think the courses that these platforms offer, they are of extreme precision, and these are some really well designed courses, and you can always go about them. There's a vast variety of courses which are available over there, and depending on your interest, you can enroll for a course in financial modeling. You can enroll for a course that would help you to improve your communication skills, and you can enroll for a course that would help you learn the skills of an ERP, let's say a SAP or any other system maybe. So all these courses are available, and I think these two platforms, Udemy, Coursera, and some other similar platforms, I think they have a better. I think these are better than looking for any other videos on YouTube and others. So I think it's good if you can enroll in one of these courses during this time.
So can you once again name those videos?
Yeah, so these platforms are Udemy, Udemi, My, sorry. And
Yes.
I'll just write it in the chat so it will be better for everybody. Udemy and
Uh,
yeah, so these are the two platforms which have a lot of good courses. Most of the people use them for getting the certification courses and all done. So you can look for any good course on these platforms.
So, like, where exactly have you written, sir?
So Keshav, there is, you can just go search Udemy, Udemy, and Coursera. These are pretty famous online platforms to edutech companies. You can just go and search it on Google. I'm pretty sure you'll find it. It's not a
Okay.
It's not a big fact. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. So now,
Can I have a question?
Sorry, I mean, we cannot obviously cover all of the questions here, audience. Just wanted to let you know on that because we have a lot of questions coming in. But one question that one of our users asking is it a good idea to do CFA along with articleship? Considering CA
Yeah, I think it's a good idea to do that because the CFA curriculum, if you look at it, so apart from the subjects of quant, eco, and ethics, all the other subjects are somewhere or the else covered in your CA final curriculum. So if you are prepared for your SFM CA final examination thoroughly and the accountancy examination thoroughly, I think the 6 or 7 subjects in your CFA curriculum they get covered very easily. So it's not at all difficult to manage both these at the same time because it's only ethics and the quants that you have to work for additionally, and all the other concepts will be something that you are already aware of. So that significantly reduces the time that you need to prepare for them. So I think it's a really good idea if you want to pursue CFA along with articleship. That is totally manageable because there's a lot of overlapping in the concepts, and yeah, it's perfectly manageable. I have also done both my levels of CFA examination during the 3 years of articleship tenure. So I think that's really, really manageable, and it's very much easy in that aspect.
Okay, Suryansh.
Can I have a
Now,
question?
again, coming to another question, I'm so sorry to keep because this person has been asking multiple times. How did you achieve the 14 to 15 hour effective
Yeah.
studies? Please give
So
tips.
I think 14 to 15 hours of effective study is something which, so basically, in my case, what happened was that when I went for the examination leaves, I knew that I had a lot of syllabus to cover because the first 2 years I've spent mainly focusing all my energy and all my enthusiasm towards my articleship, because of which I had a lot to study in the last few days. So I knew that I had to keep pushing myself from the very first day in order to be able to complete my syllabus at the before the examinations were on my head. So that is one thing. And I think you have to start gradually from, you have to make fixed targets of, let's say, 10 hours in a day, and break that 10 hours day into 3 or 4 shifts of, let's say, 2.5 hours each. That is how you begin with. So every 2.5 hours, you give yourselves half an hour of leisure time, or you just go for a small walk, or you just analyze as to how effectively you have analyzed how effectively you have utilized the previous 2.5 hours. So you can do a little bit of that, and then gradually you can increase the duration of each of these sessions from 2.5 hours to 3.5 hours, which will help you to attain 14 hours of effective study in a day. So that is how it has to begin. It's a gradual process. It will take you a couple of months to be accustomed to keep sitting and studying for 14 to 15 hours in a day. It's something which is not very easy. It is not something which you can start implementing from the next day. But then once you start with around 8 to 9 hours of effective study, and then you gradually tend to increase it, then achieving 14 hours of effective study before the examinations is very much easier. And the most important thing over here is to have a concrete timetable, because without that, the one of the major problems with the CA final examination is that the curriculum is extremely vast. There's so much to study that one cannot ever be confident that he has covered the entire thing, because there are so many concepts that will be left no matter how hard you prepare. So it's very important to have a concrete timetable, a day wise timetable, and then it's equally important to break that day into smaller segments of, let's say, 3 or 4 hours, wherein you have a fixed timetable as to what it is that you want to complete in that time. If you go with that approach, it would be a little mechanical in the beginning, but that's the only way which can help you to ensure 14 or 15 hours of effective study in a day.
Okay. Okay, that's great. So we have the last question by seat number 5. He wanted to ask an important question. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Is it what are the opportunities that if we drop out of CS in the middle, and is it better to do CS after our MBA so that we can have a backup?
I think, yeah, because the uncertainty with both these courses, C and CS, it's really high. So if you have a backup plan in hand, that's always advisable. But the other thing that you asked was how advisable it is to leave the course in between. I think that is something which I would certainly not recommend, because everybody remembers the end. People, they usually tend to forget what the beginning is, and they tend to remember the end. So if it is possible, it's always better to push yourself till the very last step, and only and opt out of that particular course when you have achieved the degree. But let us say, because of whatever circumstances you're not able to do that, then, like I mentioned before, even for the semi-qualified CAs and CS, the institute does have a platform wherein you can apply for various jobs, and there are opportunities for semi-qualified chartered accountants and company secretaries as well. So there is an opportunity, but it's always better to put in one additional year and complete the course, because you've already put in a lot of effort into it before this.
Thank you.
So yes, guys. So I think we are almost ending this session. First of all, thank you. I'm really sorry to all the users whose questions were not covered in this session. It would be great, Suryansh, if you could share.
Yeah, sure. That's what I was trying to mention.
Or any other profile.
Anybody, if you want to ask anything regarding the subject-specific queries or anything, the preparation strategies, because I know I could not talk about the subject-specific preparation strategies in this 1 hour. So if anybody has any question about that, you can feel free to contact me. I'll just put in my contact number. You can give me a call or just drop me a text on WhatsApp. I'll certainly revert by the end of the day to each and every query that I get, or you can connect with me on LinkedIn. It's You can find me by the name of Suryansh Agarwal on LinkedIn as well, and you can also connect me with Facebook and Instagram, any profile that you want, and I'll be more than happy to answer any specific query that anybody of you has for all the listeners out there.
So yes, we will also be, at the maybe by tomorrow or so, we will also be personally sending in, the LinkedIn profiles at least of all our speakers today. So yes, thank you once again, Suryansh. It was a really amazing experience to have you on board in today's session. Again, we could not cover all the questions, and extremely sorry to those people whose questions were not covered. But let's again, networking is very important, and let's try to connect with Suryansh when it's possible, and you could ask all your questions to him personally. Thank you once again, Suryansh. Hope you all have a great year, and yes, it's a difficult time right now with the lockdown and everything. But let's use this time as productive as possible. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Akash. Yes, Satyam, were you trying to say something?
Sir, I want to ask that is this recording, it will be available of our session. It would be of great help, as most of the things are very much inspiring in this session. It would be a great inspiring thing if this audio of this session or recording will be available.
Hello. Sorry, Satyam, couldn't hear you. I mean, it was.
Akash was asking if a recording of the session is possible. That you can
Okay. Yes. We will be sharing it on our page. So yes, it'll be there. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Akai, for having me. And I wish all the
Thank you
best
so
for
much.
all of you for your future endeavors. And I'm really happy to connect with all of you on any of the platforms. So feel free to reach out to me. And let's all keep safe and let's all keep healthy. Yeah, all the best, guys.
Thank you, Suryansh. Thank you, everyone. Hope you all have a great day. Cheers.